Now, Pavarotti was a good friend.
And let's listen to Pavarotti. Put on Pavarotti.
Hello. Welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. As a disclaimer, this channel is for entertainment purposes. These are my opinions, and I'm not here to slander anyone. I will provide information. I will speculate based on that information I provide. The opinions I give, they are mine and mine alone. So let's get started. I've got a rather interesting episode for you here. I hope you can follow along because I think it's important for me to get this out. As I watched Nancy Grace, I did, watched her coverage of the Delphi trial yesterday, and she was discussing the jailhouse confessions of Richard Allen. And of course, she's dead set on Richard Allen is guilty, like she is everybody. And she was explaining how he was manipulating and faking being crazy as he gave those confessions. And then she goes as far as to bring, one of her correspondents on and says, hey, tell us, he's an attorney, tell us why, he was faking all that. Tell us. And the guy goes, well, if I was defending him, I would say that he was just confessing to try to get some food and water because they had him in some horrible conditions. And, you'd say anything just to get some water. And she said, what do you mean that he was getting fed and water? What are you talking about? And he's like, no, did you see the guy? He's whittling away to nothing. It was terrible. She said, no, he changed his appearance. He said, come on, Nancy, he changed his appearance while he was in prison in solitary confinement. She said, get off the screen. Give me another one. You profiler, get up here. Tell me why he's guilty. And I'm like, man, that's just, she won't even listen to her own people. But, we have the same effect going on many different places as it relates to the Kohberger case. And what's bad is there's enough mainstream media narrative that Kohberger's guilty in every single way without having, fellow YouTubers who proclaim that they believe Kohberger is innocent, but they really have guilter blocks just like everybody else. But they'll still claim he's innocent so that they can, what if the frat boys did this? And what if this happened here? And, what if this happened here? It's always just a bunch of what ifs with nothing to back it up because they don't truly believe in their heart of hearts that Kohberger is innocent. They believe he's guilty. And the reason for that, I hate to say, is you hear it all the time, well, an inside source gave them this information. An inside source gave them that information. What's bad is 9 times out of 10, that inside source is usually the Drunk Turkey Show. And his inside sources probably live in Alaska, But I'm going to use my video today as an opportunity to dispel one of those new rumors that are going around out there because it came from an inside source. You may not have heard it, so if you haven't, I'll get out in front of it before you hear it. And if you have, well, then we'll just go ahead and annihilate it so it's not on your mind because it's BS. And then the second part to this is let me applaud everybody that watches my channel, subscribes, and comments because y'all are some of the smartest individuals, I assure you, in this entire YouTube domain. And people from other channels that want to discuss the intelligence level of the people who watch me are absolute morons in themselves, and they couldn't identify an intelligent individual because they don't have the intelligence level to identify one. So let me applaud all of the people who watch me, subscribe, and comment because y'all are awesome. I appreciate you, and y'all are all very intelligent. The most intelligent around, I assure you. And the reason I wanted to point that out is because in my last video, or maybe it was the video before last when I was discussing that exclusive Model M and the detractors out there with the guilter blocks, they want to come up with every reason to try to dispel. No, it's a different color. I've looked it up. It's a different color. So no, that theory, Kohberger did it. Kohberger did it. If they put that much emphasis in trying to actually investigate actual facts in the case versus dispelling any other scenario other than Kohberger did it, or, you know, the frat, Jack D and the frat boys, you know, the frat boys. The frat boys said that Ethan said one of them had shriveled up testes. Whenever I hear that, I go, man, are you freaking kidding me? You're either, no offense to the women out there, but you're either a woman or you're a guy who needs to get out and hang out with the boys more often, because you must only be around women. Because if you get out and hang out with the boys, you'll learn that that's how the boys talk to each other. All right, we don't get out and glad hand and how you doing? Yo, you're a good guy. No, we get out and we give each other grief. That's what guys do, and that's how they talk to each other. Hey man, you're a big old fat head. You're stupid. Oh yeah, well I bet your little testes are shriveled up from all them steroids you be shooting up. That's just how guys talk to each other. That's not a reason to commit a unaliving. So come up with more than that before you come with that stuff as a motive. My goodness. Back to what I was discussing though. The color of that vehicle. You know, I suggested paint shops and chop shops. But my subscribers, or I don't know if they're subscribed, my commenters are very, very smart. They made some suggestions and I looked into it, and I'll be danged if it don't fit the scenario just perfectly. But we're going to get into that. But first, let's talk about this new inside information that I heard that's going around out here on YouTube, that DM picked Bryan Kohberger out of a lineup. Yep, that's the new one. That she picked Bryan Kohberger out of a lineup. And that's how they got to Kohberger. She picked him out of a lineup. And that's why Kohberger's guilty. That's what these people really think. Then they'll get on their channel and say, oh, I think he's innocent. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that for just a minute. Let's get into it. But before we do, let's read the statutes on lineups. Okay, so first of all, United States, or Simmons versus United States, you can go look this up, 390 U.S. 377 from 1968. And this is what all of the judicial codes point to. And this is number one, discussing post-indictment lineups and how they are unconstitutional. So knowing that, we know that they did not provide a lineup to DM post the arrest of Bryan Kohberger. So it would have had to been prior to the arrest. So let's discuss that. And remember, it's nighttime here, so DM would have seen the perpetrator for a matter of a few seconds, and this is basically what she would have seen in those few seconds. Okay, so let's vet this with the Department of Justice's eyewitness identification procedures for conducting photo arrays. And it starts with the location of the photo array. Unless impracticable, the witness should view the photo array out of earshot and view of others in a location that avoids exposing the witness to information or evidence that could influence the witness's identification, including information about the case, the progress of the investigation, or the suspect. Neither the suspect nor any photographs of the suspect, including wanted posters, should be visible in any area where the witness will be present. And you can see why this would be so important to a pre-indictment conviction or a pre-arrest, because Kohberger's picture was posted all over the world the day he was arrested. So a photo lineup would have had to have occurred before his arrest. And that's the law anyways as it relates to the statute I just cited. But that's part one. Let's look at the next part. And again, vetting out this photo lineup pick, we can see the photograph of the suspect. When selecting a photograph of the suspect for the photo array, the administrator should include only one suspect in each photo array, regardless of the total number of photographs and regardless of whether multiple suspects fit the same description. Unless impracticable, The administrator should select a photograph of the suspect that resembles the witness's description of the perpetrator or the perpetrator's appearance at the time of the incident. The administrator should avoid using a photo that is several years old or has different characteristics. For example, hairstyle, facial hair, than those described, unless a current photograph cannot be taken or produced. So, we know he doesn't have any prior photo lineups, any prior mug shots. So that means they would have had to go into his local school photograph to produce the photograph for somebody to pick out of a lineup. And we'll see how that holds up here in a minute. And then you have the selection of the filler photographs. And a photo array should include at least 5 filler non-suspect photographs. Fillers should generally fit the witness's description of the perpetrator, including such characteristics as gender, race, skin color, facial hair, age, and distinctive physical features. Meaning, if she has one distinctive physical feature, which is bushy eyebrows, then all 5 of the filler photographs should be included with other people that have that same distinctive physical feature, bushy eyebrows. They should be sufficiently similar so that a suspect's photograph does not stand out. So, do you think that really happened if she pulled them out of a photo lineup? Let's take a look at a photo lineup, and we won't even include these characteristics, and let's see if it's even feasible to pull him out based on what she's seen that night. And remember, this is what she's seen that night in the dark. Then we got our photo lineup. Let's look at features here. We got the eyebrows, right? Okay, well, these eyebrows match up. Eminem's got some bushies. Look at there. Timberlake's got some big bushies that have been plucked. Look at Bieber's bushies. Uh-oh, Vaughn, no bushies. Vaughn's out. And then whoever this dude is, he got some bushies. But now let's look at the hair. All right, well, nope, sorry, Eminem. You're out, buddy. Timberlake would qualify. Bieber, you're gone. So even out of this photo lineup, 3 of them wouldn't qualify. So if you've got 5 other pictures similar to Kohberger's features in a photo lineup when he was identified supposedly at nighttime with a surgical mask over his face, you think that is going to be an identifiable lineup that's going to hold up in court? Sorry, folks. January 23rd, if they did pick him out of a lineup, let me tell you what this will be. It's called suppressed. Gone. See what I mean, folks? It's beyond me how even some of the better creators out there that should be able to be subjective on things, how much just hearing that an inside source tells you something like DM picked Kohberger out of a photo lineup, that would get them to ignore all of the other evidence in this case and assume that Kohberger is guilty. And you know it does, because you can see in their conviction when they talk about Kohberger's innocence in their opinion. Okay, so that one, if it is true, big deal. That is totally a false picking somebody out of a lineup based on those circumstances, and that would absolutely be suppressed before the trial, so that would never make it in. And it's bogus to begin with. That's part 1. Now part 2 is that BMW X6 Model M. Now, there's been some speculation that it is actually a different color based on paint codes and all that. And I can tell you, if you called the dealership with the VIN number, the dealership that sold that vehicle would have the information on it. Most BMW dealerships would. And they would be able to use the VIN number to look up the records on the vehicle and get you a paint code. So that is the case. But you're never going to get the paint color off of the VIN number, I assure you. I have extensive knowledge in automobiles. I won't explain why, but you can bet I have extensive knowledge. You show me any car that's been painted, I can tell you where it's been painted in about 2 seconds. I have that much experience. But my commenters on my video pointed out something that slapped me right in the face. And when you're talking about experienced criminals going to do a professional hit, you can bet there's measures that they're taking. And when I talk about this BMW, I'm not suggesting that this is the vehicle that's circling the neighborhood. No, when you see it drive through at a little bit before 1 a.m., it is doing what I clearly suspect to be surveillance. It's looking for the right ways in and out of the situation. That's the surveillance vehicle. But you can bet if that vehicle came all the way into Moscow for great distances for this reason, then they would do whatever they could to camouflage this vehicle. I suggested going to one of their chop shops and actually painting the vehicle. But it has been brought to my attention by some very sharp subscribers what probably truly happened in this case, and it makes more sense than anything now that I remember what I reviewed in that original photograph. Let's take a look. And if you remember in that video, as I was discussing this vehicle, I pointed out that at the back of the vehicle, it looked like something was coming off of the rear fender, and I had no idea what this was because it's just weird. You can see it's like it was wrapped around there, and then like maybe some of the glue was coming off or something, and it was starting to peel off from the fender. And I was like, man, what the heck is this? And I thought maybe it was something they tried to put over the rear bumper, over the license plate or something. Just couldn't figure it out. But now thinking, man, these people are coming up to do a job. They're going to try to make sure their vehicle, if it's seen in the area, doesn't match the description of their actual vehicle. So they would take steps. What steps could they have taken to make this vehicle not look like theirs, considering it's a vehicle that there's only 2,000 made in the whole world that year? Probably the only one within 500 miles of the area at the time. What could they have done? So that would absolutely explain the BMW's color, and it would make much more sense for seasoned criminals performing a professional hit to mask their reconnaissance vehicle. So that brings up the question then, if that other vehicle that passes 3 times before 4 a.m. wasn't the DoorDash driver, and it was a perpetrator vehicle dropping off 1, maybe 2 assailants, then was that vehicle even really white? If they went through the steps to camouflage their reconnaissance vehicle, I think it would be quite logical to think that they may have gone through the same steps to camouflage the actual vehicle that would be dropping off the perpetrators that evening. Something to consider. But as much as they want to throw out, we've got to make sure that any argument that can be countered is countered, and it's countered with logic and sense, or else we'll have the same situation going on in the Idaho 4 case that we now see going on in this Delphi case. Prosecution just rested, and their entire evidence against him is an unspent bullet cartridge with some junk science, prison confessions when they're starving a guy to death and not giving him water. I didn't see any other evidence. The witnesses didn't identify Richard Allen as being the bridge guy. I mean, they didn't have any other, there's nothing. They got nothing on him. And he's been through a living hell in prison, and man, I'm just interested to see what the defense brings out in this case, because it is ridiculous. So I'm going to continue to do what I can to try and do my part in making sure that this Idaho 4 case is on the level as possible, so that the real assailants can be apprehended at some point, if they have not already been apprehended and are just waiting in the wings when this case falls through. But please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, your thoughts, criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's out.